Humanity on Trial: How Earth's Barbaric Defense Reshaped the Galaxy Forever. Part 1: The Summons. The message came on a Tuesday morning. Han was drinking his coffee when his assistant ran into his office with fear in her eyes. She handed him a small data chip without saying a word, plugged it into his terminal, and watched the holographic seal of the Galactic Council appear above his desk. He had seen many official messages in his 42 years of life. He had been a soldier for 15 of those years and a diplomat for 10 more, but he had never seen a summons like this one. The Galactic Council of Civilized Species hereby summons the human race to stand trial, the message began. The charge is barbaric conduct during the incursion. Humanity must send a representative to the neutral station within 30 standard days. Failure to appear will result in immediate quarantine of all human worlds. Read the message 3 times, then he called his old friend. Was a cultural historian who had spent 20 years studying alien civilizations. She understood how other species thought better than anyone knew. When he explained the situation, she was silent for a long moment. "They want to punish us for surviving," she finally said. "I will come with you." The journey took 18 days. The station orbited a dying red star at the edge of known space. It was ancient, built by a species that no longer existed, and it served as neutral ground for all galactic matters. No weapons were allowed within 10,000 kilometers of its hull. And arrived in a small diplomatic ship with only a crew of 6. As they approached, they could see hundreds of other vessels already docked. News of the trial had spread across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to watch. The station itself was beautiful in a cold way. Its walls were made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light. The corridors were wide enough for species of any size to walk through. Saw beings he recognized and many he did not. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated through the air or crawled along the walls. All of them stopped to stare at the 2 humans passing by. "They look at us like we are monsters," whispered. "To them we might be," replied. The trial chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It was shaped like a bowl, with thousands of seats rising up on all sides. At the center was a raised platform where the accused would stand. Above the platform, 12 crystalline thrones held the judges of the Galactic Council. Council Prime sat in the highest throne. Was one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His body was made of living crystal that shifted colors as he thought. He was over 3,000 years old, and he had judged hundreds of trials. His face, if it could be called that, showed no emotion as and took their place on the platform. "The trial of humanity will now begin," announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like wind through a canyon. "Archon will present the charges." A tall figure rose from the prosecution's area. Was an insect-like species with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the light in disturbing patterns. They were famous for their absolute belief in pacifism. They had not fought a war in over 10,000 years. To them, violence of any kind was the greatest sin. 3 years ago began the species known as the entered human space. They came with 40,000 ships. They came with hostile intent. This is not disputed. Paused and looked directly at. What is disputed is humanity's response. When the fleet arrived, humans did not attempt communication. They did not offer negotiation. They did not try to understand. Instead, they launched an immediate military response of unprecedented brutality. Holographic images appeared above the chamber. They showed human warships firing weapons that remembered all too well. They showed vessels exploding by the hundreds, then by the thousands. In 72 hours, continued, humanity destroyed the entire invasion fleet. 40,000 ships, millions of lives, gone. Not a single attempt at peace, not a single offer of surrender accepted. The chamber erupted in whispers. Heard words like savages and murderers from the crowd above. The Galactic Council has long tolerated humanity's violent nature, said. We have watched your wars amongst yourselves. We have seen your history of bloodshed. But this action against the crosses every line of civilized behavior. You did not defeat an enemy. You committed extinction. Grabbed's arm. Her face was pale, but her eyes were angry. She wanted to speak, but shook his head. It was not yet their turn. The prosecution asks for the maximum penalty, concluded. Permanent quarantine of all human worlds. Removal of faster-than-light technology. Humanity must be contained before they turn their barbaric nature toward the rest of us. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned too. Counsel Prime leaned forward in his crystalline throne. The accused may now respond to the charges. How does humanity plead? Stepped forward. He could feel the weight of billions of human lives pressing down on his shoulders. Every word he spoke in this chamber would determine the future of his entire species. Humanity pleads not guilty, he said. His voice was calm and clear. And we request permission to present evidence that has been classified until now, evidence that shows the true nature of the threat. His crystal body flickered with colors. What evidence do you speak of? Military records from the incursion, testimony from survivors, and proof that they were not what this council believes them to be. Made a sound of disgust. The prosecution objects. Human military records cannot be trusted. They will say anything to justify their violence. The objection is noted, said, but the council will allow the evidence. However, I must warn the human representative. If your evidence proves that humanity acted with unnecessary cruelty, the penalty will be swift and severe. Nodded, I understand. The first day of the trial ended, and were escorted to small quarters deep within the station. The room was simple, with 2 beds and a small table. A window showed the dying red star outside, its light casting everything in shades of blood. Do you think they will listen? Asked. Sat on his bed and closed his eyes. He thought about the incursion. He thought about the things he had seen, the images that still visited him in nightmares. They do not understand what really happened, he said quietly. They think we chose violence because we are violent. They do not know that we had no choice. They were not invaders, they were something far worse. And when this council learns the truth, they will wish they had never put us on trial. Sat across from him. What do you mean, what were the really? Opened his eyes and looked at her. In his gaze was a pain that had never fully healed. Tomorrow, he said, tomorrow everyone will know. Humanity on trial. How Earth's barbaric defense reshaped the galaxy forever. Part 2, The Evidence. The second day of the trial began with silence. The thousands of aliens in the chamber watched as Han walked to the center of the platform. Beside him stood a holographic projector that he had requested the night before. Before I present humanity's defense, said, I must ask this council a question. What do you know about the Archon rose from the prosecution area. They were a nomadic species. They traveled through space looking for resources. They were aggressive, yes, but they were still a civilized people deserving of the chance to communicate. That is what your records say, replied. But your records are incomplete. I would like to call my first witness. Admiral, commander of Earth's defense forces during the incursion. The holographic projector hummed to life. A figure appeared above it, a man in his 60s with gray hair and tired eyes. Admiral had led the defense against the. He had not slept well since. Admiral said, please tell the council what happened when they entered human space. The Admiral's holographic form nodded slowly. They came without warning. 40,000 ships appeared near our outer colony 7. We sent greeting signals on every frequency we knew. We offered peace. We offered trade. We offered friendship. And how did they respond? They did not respond. They simply attacked. Within 6 hours, 7 was gone. 200,000 people lived there. When we arrived with our fleet, we found nothing. No buildings, no bodies, nothing. The chamber stirred. Council Prime leaned forward. What do you mean, nothing? Where did the colonists go? Admiral's face grew darker. They were eaten, Council Prime. They consumed them, every man, woman, and child. They consumed the buildings too, the trees, the grass, the soil itself. They left nothing but bare rock. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Compound eyes blinked rapidly. This is impossible, said. They were a space-faring civilization. Civilized species do not consume other sentient beings. I have proof, said. I call my second witness, Lieutenant Park. Another holographic figure appeared. This one was a young woman, perhaps 30 years old, but her eyes looked much older. They held a haunted quality that made several aliens in the chamber look away. Lieutenant Park was stationed at an observation post near 7, explained. She witnessed the attack from beginning to end. Tell us what you saw, said gently. Lieutenant Park's holographic form trembled slightly. I was in a shielded bunker 3 kilometers underground. They did not detect me. I watched through our sensors as they landed on the colony. She paused and closed her eyes. They were not ships in the normal sense. They were more like living creatures, massive things with mouths and tentacles and organs that we could not understand. When they touched the ground, they began to feed. Everything they touched dissolved. People ran, but there was nowhere to run. They were everywhere. How long did it take? Asked. 6 hours for the entire colony, 3 days for the surrounding ecosystem. When they left, the planet's surface was dead, just rock and dust. They took everything organic, everything that had ever lived. The chamber was now completely silent. Even had stopped objecting. Turned to face the council directly. This was not an invasion for territory. This was not a war for resources. They were a consuming swarm. They did not want our planets. They wanted to eat us. He activated another section of the projector. Star maps appeared, showing the galaxy from 1,000 years ago to the present day. Our cultural historian has analyzed galactic records from the past millennium. What she found will disturb this council. Stepped forward. Her voice was steady despite the tension in her body. They have been traveling through the galaxy for at least 800 years, she said. In that time, they have consumed 17 civilizations. 17 species that once existed are now gone. Their worlds are empty. Their histories are forgotten. The only records of them exist in scattered council archives. She highlighted several star systems on the map. Each one was marked with a red symbol. The records mention the people who disappeared 400 years ago. The archives reference the who vanished 300 years before that. Each time, the pattern is the same. A civilization goes silent. When scout ships arrive to investigate, they find barren worlds with no life remaining. And you believe they were responsible for all of these? Asked. I know they were, replied, because I found something else in the records, something this council has tried to hide. She changed the display. Now it showed shipping routes and political boundaries from various time periods. Every time they appeared in a populated region of space, they were soon redirected toward less developed areas. Trade agreements would suddenly change. Borders would shift, and they would move away from established civilizations toward younger ones. Watched as understanding began to dawn on some of the council members' faces. You are suggesting, said slowly, that the council knew about the threat. I am not suggesting it, said. I am stating it as fact. The council has known about them for centuries, and instead of stopping them, you redirected them. You pointed them toward species that could not defend themselves. You sacrificed others to protect yourselves. Lies, shouted. This is human propaganda. They are trying to deflect blame for their crimes. The chamber exploded into chaos. Dozens of species were shouting at once. Some were demanding proof. Others were demanding that the humans be silenced. Had to strike his throne 3 times before order was restored. "These are serious accusations," said. "Do you have proof of this redirection?" Nodded. "We have recovered navigation data from destroyed vessels. The data shows they received signals from this station itself, guiding them toward human space 3 years ago. Someone on this station told the where to find us." The silence that followed was absolute. Then a new voice spoke from the chamber above. It belonged to a small amphibian creature sitting in one of the lesser delegate seats. "The humans speak truth." All eyes turned to the speaker, recognized him as delegate, a representative of the people. "My species was nearly the first victim of the," continued. "800 years ago, they came to our space. We were saved only because a council representative offered them coordinates to a richer feeding ground. We have lived with this shame ever since." Looked down at with something like respect in his large, wet eyes. "The humans did what we were too afraid to do. They fought, and they won. For that they should not be punished. They should be thanked." His compound eyes were wild with anger. "This changes nothing. Even if there were monsters, humanity's response was excessive. They could have found another way. They could have tried harder to communicate. They chose total destruction because destruction is their nature." Smiled, though there was no joy in it. "Archon insists we could have communicated with that we should have tried harder to make peace. Tomorrow, I will show this council why that was impossible. I will bring a witness that everyone believes is dead, a survivor from a species that the consumed." The chamber erupted again, but was already walking away. Caught up with him in the corridor outside. "A survivor?" she asked. "You never told me about a survivor." Kept walking. "I could not risk the information leaking, but she exists. The last of the. She has been in stasis for 200 years, waiting for someone to hear her story." "Where is she?" Stopped and turned to face his friend. "She is already here, on this station, and tomorrow she will tell the galaxy what they really are. Humanity on trial, how Earth's barbaric defense reshaped the galaxy forever." Part 3: The Witness. The third day of the trial began with whispers that spread through the chamber like fire through dry grass. Word had gotten out that humanity would present an impossible witness, a ghost from a dead civilization. Han stood at the center of the platform and waited for silence. When it came, he spoke clearly. "I called to testify of the people." A door opened at the side of the chamber. 2 figures emerged. One was a human woman in a white medical coat. The other walked slowly, supported by a hovering chair that kept her fragile body stable. Was small, barely a meter tall. Her skin was pale blue and covered in fine scales. Her eyes were large and dark, holding centuries of pain. She was the last of her kind, and she looked like she carried the weight of every lost soul on her thin shoulders. The human woman beside her was who had dedicated her life to finding survivors of attacks. 10 years ago, she had discovered in a hidden stasis pod on a barren world that had once been the. The chamber was absolutely silent, as took her place in the witness area. Every being present knew they were looking at something that should not exist. Said gently, "Thank you for coming. I know this is difficult." This voice was soft and thin, like wind through broken glass. "I have waited 200 years to tell this story. I will not stop now. Please tell the council about your people, about what happened to them." Closed her large eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were wet with tears. "They were a peaceful people. We lived on a beautiful world covered in forests and rivers. We had art and music and science. We believed that all beings in the universe could live together in harmony. When they came, we welcomed them." She paused, her small body trembling. "They did not speak to us. They did not answer our greetings. They simply began to feed. My parents were among the first to die. I watched as creatures the size of buildings consumed our cities. They ate everything. The trees, the buildings, the people, nothing was left." "How did you survive?" asked. "My father was a scientist. He had built a stasis chamber deep underground for research purposes. When the attack began, he put me inside and sealed the door. He told me to wait, to survive, to tell the galaxy what had happened. Tears rolled down her blue cheeks. I was in stasis for 200 years. When Doctor found me and woke me up, I thought perhaps the danger had passed. I thought perhaps someone had stopped but no. They were still out there, still consuming, still killing. Council Prime spoke, his crystalline body flickering with troubled colors. We are sorry for your loss, but the prosecution has argued that could have been reasoned with, that humanity should have tried harder to communicate. Made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been so bitter. You cannot reason with you cannot communicate with them. Do you know why? Because they are not truly alive, not in the way we understand life. The chamber stirred, stepped forward. If I may, Council Prime, I have conducted extensive research on biology using samples recovered from the human defense operation. What I found supports statement. Nodded, proceed. Activated the holographic projector. Images of cellular structure appeared above the chamber. They are not a natural species, she said. Their DNA is artificial. It was designed and engineered by someone millions of years ago. Every aspect of their biology has a purpose. Their consumption drive, their reproduction rate, their immunity to communication. She highlighted several sections of the genetic code. Look here. These sequences prevent the development of higher brain functions. They cannot think like we do. They cannot feel like we do. They are biological machines programmed to do one thing: consume organic matter and reproduce. You are saying they were created? Asked. Yes, by a civilization that existed long before any current species. We found references to them in ancient ruins across the galaxy. They called themselves the architects, and they created thee as a weapon. A weapon against whom? His face grew serious. Against anyone they considered inferior. The architects believed they were the only species worthy of existence. They created to cleanse the galaxy of lesser beings. Then, according to the records we found, they disappeared. But their weapon kept working. For millions of years, they have been doing what they were made to do. The chamber erupted in discussion. Hundreds of voices speaking at once. Had to strike his throne repeatedly to restore order. Archon rose from the prosecution area. His compound eyes were fixed on. Even if what you say is true, he said, it does not excuse humanity's response. Perhaps they could not be reasoned with, but surely there were other options. Humanity could have fled. They could have redirected thee as others did before. They did not have to commit total destruction. Stepped forward. I would like to ask one more question. Nodded. You said your people tried to welcome Did anyone try to fight? The lowered her head. Some did. Near the end, when we realized what was happening, some of our people took up weapons. But it was too late. We were not a warrior species. We did not know how to fight. By the time we understood, there were too few of us left. If your people had been warriors, asked quietly, do you think you could have stopped them? Looked up, her dark eyes met human ones. In that moment, two survivors of the understood each other perfectly. If we had fought from the beginning, she said, if we had not wasted time trying to communicate with something that could not listen, perhaps some of us would still be alive. They cannot be stopped with words. They can only be stopped with force. Total, absolute force. She turned to face the council directly. Humanity did what my people could not. They saw the threat and they acted without hesitation. They did not wait for permission. They did not hope for mercy from creatures that had none. They fought, they destroyed, and they survived. Her voice grew stronger, filled with emotion that had been trapped inside her for 2 centuries. You call them barbarians. You call their defense excessive. But I call them heroes. They ended the threat forever. Something this council has been too cowardly to do for 800 years. Recoiled as if struck. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their thrones. Spoke carefully. The witness's opinion is noted, but this trial is about whether humanity violated galactic law, not about whether their actions were strategically wise. Nodded. I understand, Council Prime, but I would ask you this question. When the law allows monsters to consume innocent lives, is following that law really civilized? Or is it just another form of barbarism, one dressed in fine robes and held in beautiful chambers? Did not answer. His crystalline body flickered through colors that could not interpret. The session ended for the day. As was helped out of the chamber, she passed by. Thank you, she whispered, for letting me speak, for ending them. Took her small hand gently. Thank you for surviving, for carrying the truth this long. That night came to his quarters without his guards. The ancient being looked troubled, his crystal form cycling through dark colors. I must tell you something, said. This trial was never meant to be fair. Powerful forces wanted humanity contained. They feared what you proved by defeating the. That we are dangerous, asked. That you are capable, that you could threaten their control of the galaxy, moved closer. But now everything has changed. Testimony cannot be ignored. The truth about the Council's role in redirecting the cannot be buried. So what happens now? His form flickered with uncertain colors. I do not know, but I warn you, the forces that wanted this trial will not give up easily. They may try other ways to stop humanity. Be careful. After left, stood at his window watching the dying star. He had a feeling that the real trial was only beginning. Humanity on trial. How Earth's barbaric defense reshaped the galaxy forever. Part 4, The Conspiracy. The attack came in the middle of the night. Han was asleep when he heard the door to his quarters slide open. His soldier instincts kicked in immediately. He rolled off the bed and pressed himself against the wall, reaching for a weapon he did not have. A figure entered the room, moving fast and silent. In the dim emergency lighting, could see it was its 4 arms holding something sharp and deadly. Before the assassin could reach, another shadow moved. Minyu, the human security officer assigned to protect the delegation, appeared from nowhere. He tackled to the ground with a speed that made eyes go wide. The fight lasted only seconds. Minyu was younger and stronger. He pinned the assassin down and called for station security. Are you hurt, sir? Minyu asked, not taking his eyes off the struggling. No, good work, Minyu, knelt beside the assassin. Who sent you? Why did you try to kill me? The hissed in its native language. Did not understand the words, but he understood the hatred in them. Station security arrived minutes later. They took the assassin away for questioning, but already knew this was not a simple murder attempt. Someone powerful wanted the trial to end, one way or another. The next morning, gathered his team in a secure room. Minyu and all looked tired and worried. The assassin was part of the delegation, Minyu reported. But he was not acting alone. He had help getting into our section of the station. Someone disabled the security systems. The one silenced said, but they are pacifists. How could they justify hearing an assassin? Because some things are more important than their principles, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see a figure entering the room. It was tall and thin, wrapped in robes of shifting darkness. Its face was hidden, but its voice was old and cold. Who are you? Demanded. I am called the Architect, not of the ancient race, but of the station itself. I represent the elders, those who built this place and who have quietly guided galactic affairs for. His hand moved toward Minyu, ready to signal an attack, but the figure raised a thin hand. I am not here to hurt you. I am here to tell you the truth. After that, you may do what you wish. The team exchanged looks, finally nodded, speak. The architect moved to the center of the room. You have already discovered that the council redirected toward younger species, but you do not know the full extent of this practice. It has been happening for 800 years, not randomly, but deliberately. Y asked. Power, control, fear. The architect's hidden face seemed to turn toward each of them. They were useful. Their existence created fear among the younger species. Fear made them obedient. Fear made them accept the Council's guidance without question. The elder species used the threat to maintain their control over galactic politics. You used a weapon of mass destruction to keep yourselves in power, said, his voice hard. Not I personally, but yes, the elder races. They saw thee as a tool. Point them at any species that grows too strong or too independent, and that species is weakened or destroyed. And humanity, Minyu asked. We were targeted because we were expanding too fast. Correct. Humanity was colonizing new worlds at a rate that worried the Council. Your technology was advancing rapidly. Your population was growing. In another century, you would have become a major power. The elders decided this could not be allowed. The architect paused, and when it spoke again, there was something like respect in its cold voice. They expected that to consume Earth's outer colonies and weaken your species. Instead, humanity did something no one had done before. You destroyed them completely, every single one of them, in 72 hours. And now they are afraid of us, said. Terrified. A species that can defeat the could defeat anyone. The trial was meant to contain you before you realized your own strength. Guilty verdicts were prepared before you even arrived. Your arguments were not supposed to matter. Felt cold anger building in his chest. So this trial is fake. The Council never intended to be fair. Some of them did. Council Prime has always tried to be just, but he is one voice among many, and the others have already decided humanity must be controlled. What happens if we lose? Asked quietly. Quarantine. All human ships will be disabled. All human colonies will be isolated. Your technology will be taken. Within a generation, humanity will be reduced to a primitive species, no threat to anyone. The architect leaned closer. And that is the merciful option. Some on the Council have argued for complete sterilization. The room fell silent. The weight of what they faced pressed down on everyone. Finally spoke. Why are you telling us this? You are part of the system that wants to destroy us. Because I am old, the architect said. Old enough to remember when the elder races were young and full of hope. Old enough to remember when we believed in justice instead of control. I am tired of watching innocent species suffer for the comfort of those in power. Humanity deserves a chance. What can we do? Asked. The evidence is clear, but they will not accept it. Make them accept it. The galaxy is watching this trial. Every species with access to communications is following your defense. If you can prove the conspiracy publicly, the Council will have no choice but to acknowledge it. The architect moved toward the door. But be warned. There are forces already moving against you. Ships are gathering outside the neutral zone. If the trial goes badly for the elders, they may decide to end the human problem permanently, regardless of what the law says. After the architect left, contacted Commander O, captain of the human escort vessel waiting outside the station. Commander, what is the situation out there? His face appeared on the screen, worried and alert. Not good, sir. We have detected over 100 ships from various species gathering at the edge of the neutral zone. They are not attacking, but they are clearly preparing for something. Can our ships hold them off? We have only 12 vessels, sir. Against 100, we would make them pay dearly, but we would lose. Nodded. Stay alert. Do not fire unless fired upon, but be ready for anything. Understood, sir. Ended the call and turned to his team. Tomorrow is the final day of the trial. We have one chance to change the galaxy's mind about humanity. One chance to expose the truth so clearly that it cannot be buried. How? Minyu asked. Thought of everything he had learned. The conspiracy, the fear that drove the elder races, and then he understood what he had to do. "We will not just defend ourselves," he said. "We will put the Council on trial. We will show the galaxy exactly what kind of civilization they have been living under, and then we will offer them something better." "What can we offer them?" asked. Looked out the window at the dying star. "Protection. The thing the Council has never truly given them. Humanity fought because we had no choice, but we can choose to fight for others too, for those who cannot fight for themselves." He turned back to his team with determination in his eyes. "Tomorrow, we will not just save humanity, we will change the galaxy forever." Humanity on Trial: How Earth's Barbaric Defense Reshaped the Galaxy Forever. Part 5: The Verdict. The final day of the trial began with tension so thick that could almost taste it. The chamber was more crowded than ever before. Word had spread across the galaxy that something important was about to happen. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds were watching through communication networks. Archon stood to deliver his closing argument. The prosecutor looked confident, his compound eyes bright with certainty. "This trial has been disturbing," began. "We have heard testimony about that challenges what we believed. We have heard accusations against the Council itself, but none of this changes the fundamental fact." He pointed with one of his four arms. "Humanity chose total destruction. When faced with a threat, they did not seek guidance from older, wiser species. They did not ask for help. They simply killed. This is the nature of humans. They are a violent species, and if left unchecked, they will become a threat to every civilization in the galaxy." Paused for effect. The prosecution asks for quarantine, not as punishment but as protection. Protection for the galaxy from a species that solves every problem with bloodshed. He sat down. The chamber was silent. Council Prime looked at. The defense may now present closing arguments. Walked slowly to the center of the platform. He looked up at the thousands of faces watching him. Alien faces, strange faces. But behind all their differences, he saw something familiar: fear, hope, confusion. They were not so different from humans after all. "Archon is right about one thing," began. "Humanity is capable of great violence. Our history is filled with wars. We have hurt each other in terrible ways. This is true." He let those words hang in the air. "But Archon does not understand why we are violent. He sees only the destruction. He does not see what drives it." Turned to face the Council directly. "Humans do not fight because we enjoy it. We fight because we love. We fight to protect our families, our friends, our children. When something threatens those we care about, we become dangerous. Not because violence is our nature, but because love is our nature. And love sometimes demands terrible sacrifices." He activated the holographic projector. Images appeared above the chamber. Human soldiers fighting but also human doctors treating wounded aliens. Human ships rescuing vessels in distress. Human aid workers helping disaster victims across the galaxy. "Yes, we destroyed completely, without mercy, because the showed no mercy to us. Because every moment we waited to talk, more of our people died. More children were devoured. More families were destroyed forever." His voice grew stronger. "But look at what else humanity has done. In the 30 years since we joined the galactic community, human medical ships have saved over 2 million alien lives. Human disaster relief teams have helped rebuild 3 worlds devastated by natural disasters. Human scientists have shared technology that improved food production on dozens of planets." He turned to face. "You call us barbarians because we fight, but we also heal. We also build. We also share. Violence is only one part of who we are, and we use it only when there is no other choice." Took a deep breath. "Now I must speak of something darker. This trial was never about justice. It was about control." He projected the evidence they had gathered. Navigation data showing the being directed toward human space. Communications between council members discussing how to weaken humanity. Plans for humanity's containment that were written before the trial even began. The elder races have used thee as a weapon for 800 years. They pointed these monsters at any species that grew too powerful, too independent. 17 civilizations were destroyed so that the council could maintain its grip on the galaxy. The chamber erupted in chaos. Hundreds of voices shouted at once, had to call for order repeatedly before silence returned. These are serious accusations, said. Do you have proof? The proof is in your own records, Council Prime, hidden but not destroyed. The architect of this station helped us find it. I submit all evidence for public examination. Transferred the files to the station's public network. Within seconds, they were spreading across the galaxy. There would be no hiding them now. Humanity could have kept this secret, continued. We could have used it as leverage to save ourselves. Instead, we share it freely, because the galaxy deserves to know the truth about its leaders. He looked around the chamber at all the watching species. You have lived in fear for too long, fear of each other, fear of the elder races who claim to protect you while sacrificing your neighbors. That time is over. They are gone, and now you have a choice. At that moment, the chamber's communication systems lit up with alerts. Ships were arriving at, smiled. I asked Commander O to send a message yesterday. To every species that has ever received help from humanity, every world we have aided, every people we have befriended, I asked them to come here today. Through the chamber's windows, everyone could see ships appearing in space. Not warships, transport vessels, civilian craft, hundreds of them from dozens of different species. These ships carry representatives from species across the galaxy, species who have seen what humanity truly is, not barbarians, not monsters, friends, allies, protectors. A message came through the communication system. It was broadcast throughout the chamber. This is the delegation from Thalai 4. We stand with humanity. Another voice followed. This is the survivors of the disaster. Humanity saved us. We stand with them. More and more voices joined in. Species that had never met were declaring their support. The chamber filled with their testimonies. Watched all of this with wonder on his crystalline face. The colors flowing through his body were brighter than had ever seen them. Finally, the old Council Prime spoke. I have served on this council for 3,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed great crimes and greater acts of courage, but I have never seen anything like this. He rose from his throne. The evidence presented in this trial cannot be ignored. The council's role in the atrocities must be investigated, but more importantly, the galaxy has spoken. Species from across known space have come to stand with humanity. Looked at his fellow council members. Some looked angry, some looked ashamed, some looked relieved. I move for immediate acquittal of all charges against humanity. Furthermore, I propose a complete reformation of the Galactic Council, with humanity offered a permanent seat among the elder races. The vote was not unanimous. Several species voted against, but the majority was clear. Humanity was free. As the verdict was announced, the chamber erupted in cheering. Representatives from dozens of species rushed forward to congratulate, and his team. Even some of the council members came down from their thrones to shake human hands. 1 year later, sat in her office on Earth, recording a historical entry. The galaxy has changed more in the past year than in the previous 1,000. The old council has been reformed. Several elder species have stepped back from power. New voices are being heard, and humanity has taken its place among the stars not as conquerors but as guardians. She paused and looked out her window at the busy streets below. When they came, we thought we were fighting for survival. We did not know that we were fighting for something greater. We were fighting to show the galaxy what we truly are. Not perfect, not always right, but loyal, fierce in protection of the innocent, willing to sacrifice everything for those we love. She turned back to her recording. They called us barbarians when we destroyed the. Now they call us guardians when we stand beside them. History will judge which title was more accurate, but we know the truth. In the chamber of the new Galactic Council, Han took his seat among representatives from 100 different species. He thought of all the humans who had died fighting the. He thought of, and her lost people. He thought of all the civilizations that would never again face a swarm. Humanity had been put on trial, and in defending themselves, they had changed the galaxy forever. The session began. There was much work to do, but for the first time in 800 years there was hope. Real hope. And that made all the difference.